Good morning. When I became city attorney about 8.5 years ago, I made it a real priority for our office to be a leader in the country when it comes to protecting consumers. And you've seen that work again and again. Our game-changing lawsuit against Wells Fargo, our extremely significant, impactful efforts at the very beginning of the pandemic to grapple with fake test kits and preventions and cures, our work to be sure that prenatal vitamins are safe for women while they're pregnant, and so many other very important cases. And that work continues today. I'm announcing that our office has resolved a lawsuit against a significant seller and distributor of precious metal coins, gold and silver coins, Lear Capital. Lear Capital is a Los Angeles-based gold and silver coin dealer, and we filed a lawsuit in 2019 alleging a series of issues. Today, we've resolved this case, $2.75 million. Eligible customers can receive restitution. Also, Lear Capital's business practices must change. They will change protecting consumers nationally. This lawsuit, from its inception, was about trust. And when I say trust, I mean Lear Capital's customers often involved senior citizens or inexperienced investors. They were entitled to trust that significant chunks of their life savings wouldn't end up being wiped out by astronomical fees. They were entitled to trust that when they raised legitimate questions, the responses to those questions wouldn't be threats or intimidation. But that's what we alleged happened in this case. I want to discuss a little bit more of the background. I said we filed the lawsuit in 2019. We alleged that Lear Capital routinely charged its customers exorbitant fees, and that those fees were often charged under false pretenses. For example, we alleged that Lear Capital promised its customers, in many cases, it would only charge a small fee, but that there were cases in which they charged up to 33% of the cost of the transaction just for fees. We further alleged that Lear Capital tried to limit communications with its customers to the telephone, so it wouldn't have a paper trail of what we alleged were misleading representations made to its customers. We alleged that Lear Capital's customers relied on the company's verbal promises and only discovered when it was too late what the extent of the fees they'd been charged actually was, since Lear didn't actually provide, we alleged, the specific terms of any transaction in writing until the customer had already paid. Our lawsuit additionally alleged that when Lear Capital's customers contacted the company to complain, that those complaints were sometimes met with threats if customers went public. So again, let me review the details of this important resolution today. $2.75 million in a settlement, 90% of which goes to a restitution fund to reimburse Lear Capital customers. The remaining 10% is allocated to penalties in this case. Lear must change its practices. Those changes must include, for example, getting a customer's verbal consent before the transaction proceeds and informing the customer of his or her right to cancel the transaction without penalty for any reason within 24 hours of receiving a written notice. And unlike before, the invoice that the customer receives will state the actual fee in very conspicuous terms that Lear is actually charging. Now, I mentioned there's a restitution fund. Lear's customers will be contacted, if they're eligible for this settlement, by an independent third party which is handling the restitution process, and will handle those claims through that process. We expect that payments will be made in or around April. I want to thank my team, which has worked in extremely dedicated and often challenging circumstances during the pandemic to reach this resolution. Michael Bostrom and Steve Sohn and Chris Muncy, terrific lawyers in our office whose work on behalf of people who we allege have been victimized in consumer cases is second to none. I also want to thank our always terrific partners at Channel 35 LA City View for helping us communicate the terms of this resolution this morning. Let me say a few words in Spanish, and then I'm happy to take questions. Hoy anuncio que mi oficina ha conseguido un acuerdo de $2.75 millones con Lear Capital, un distribuidor de monedas de oro y plata en Los Ángeles, para resolver acusaciones de prácticas comerciales injustas y engañosas. Como parte de este acuerdo, los clientes elegibles pueden recibir restitución y Lear debe implementar cambios en sus prácticas comerciales protegiendo a los consumidores en todo el país. Esta demanda fue sobre la habilidad de tener confianza en los servicios que proveen Lear. Let me repeat that. Esta demanda fue sobre la habilidad de tener confianza en los servicios que provee Lear. Los clientes de Lear Capital, en muchos casos, inversores ancianos o inexpertos, deberían haber podido confiar en que sus ahorros monetarios no se eliminarían con tarifas excesivas. Deberían haber sido capaces de hacer preguntas legítimas sin ser amenazados o intimidados. Pero eso es lo que alegamos que sucedió. Estoy orgulloso de que una vez más estamos defendiendo a los consumidores de Los Ángeles. All right. Let me take questions, Rob.
We have no questions at this time.
Okay, let me make clear to those customers of Lear Capital who have contacted our office, customers of Lear Capital in Los Angeles County, eligible consumers who may be able to receive restitution pursuant to this resolution. This is an important first step in bringing justice to you. And the changes in Lear Capital's practices that will be made not just here, but nationally, should protect consumers all across America. I'm very grateful to our team. Thank you very much.